belongs only the PowerPoint. Is that being shared on screen?
It's not. It's okay.
Okay.
us to get closer to the one God, the main God, right? So it's the same answer that they will give to you. This helps us to concentrate on worshiping God and so on. It's not that we worshiping the stone or whatever the idol is made of. So we worship them. This is what our mushrikeen will generally say. We worship these things in order to get closer to Allah. And then there are people, others who you don't normally consider to be mushrikeen, who do the same. They worship other things in order to get closer to Allah. So they are mushriks also. Those who do that, anyone who does that, he is a mushrik. And another answer that we find is the expectation of benefits. We worship them because they can benefit us. These idols, although you ask them, isn't this just stone and can't hear, can't see? No, they probably believe that these idols can hear you and see you and so on and can benefit you. They can benefit, and because of that benefit, that is why we worship them. We want some things, and they're the ones who will provide it for us. God is too far away. The real God is too far away, or whatever, right? He doesn't. Maybe he's not concerned with the affairs of human beings and so on. So we have to worship these idols, and they're the ones who are going to provide the things that we need uh, in our life. And the other explanation that we find is the fear of being harmed. And harmed. Allah mentioned all of these things in the Quran. These things cannot benefit you and they cannot harm you. Allah says that in multiple places. Why do you worship something? And Ibrahim alayhi salam confronted his father, saying the same thing, right? Why do you worship things that cannot benefit you and cannot harm you? So either to avoid harm, that's why they worship the God. If we don't worship them, if we say bad things about them, if we stop worshiping them, they're going to do us harm. And so these are the reasons why they may worship idols. People may worship idols. Now, I want to look at a few verses of the Quran. I don't want to take up much time, so I'll just explain some things briefly, but give you these references. In Surah Al-A'raf, Ayah 191, Allah says, أَيُشْرِكُونَ مَا لَا يَخْلُقُ شَيْئًا وَهُمْ يُخْلَقُونَ. Are they committing shirk with what cannot create anything? In other words, they associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that do not create, that cannot create. Anything that they worship, obviously, they cannot create. Those idols or any other living thing that they worship cannot create. وَهُمْ يُخْلَقُونَ. And they themselves are created. Whether it's the idols or the things that they worship, these gods that they worship, they are created. They're not the creator, right? They are created. So how can you worship them? Allah says also in Surah Yunus, وَيَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مَا لَا يَضُرُّهُمْ وَلَا يَنْفَعُهُمْ. And they worship besides Allah what cannot harm them nor benefit them. لَا يَضُرُّهُمْ وَلَا يَنْفَعُهُمْ. They worship besides Allah what cannot harm them and what cannot benefit them. وَيَقُولُونَ هَؤُلَاءِ شُفَعَاؤُنَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. And they say that these are our intercessors with Allah. These are the ones who carry up our du'as to Allah. And they bring down the answers maybe and so on, right? They are our intercessors. So we can only get close to Allah through them. We have to go through these idols that we worship. قل أتنبئون الله بما لا يعلم في السماوات ولا في الأرض. Say, are you informing Allah of what He does not know in the heavens and in the earth? Subhanahu wa ta'ala amma yushrikun. Glory be to Him and exalted above what they ascribe as partners to Him. In Surah An-Naml, and there's a long section here in Surah An-Naml, and all of these ayat here in this section from 61 to 64 begin with Amman khalaqa Amman, or the one who created the heavens and the earth. وَأَنزَلَ لَكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً, and send down rain for you from the sky. فأنبتنا به حدائق ذات بهجة, and we produced by it gardens, luscious gardens or vegetations that are beautiful, to the eye. ما كان لكم أن تنبتوا شجرها. It is not within your power to cause these things to grow, these trees and so on to grow. أَإِلَهٌ مَعَ اللَّهِ. Is there any God with Allah? Is there anyone else to be worshipped beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So here is where Allah is refuting them, saying only He does these things. Right? None of these things that you worship do this. He's the one who created the heavens and the earth and produced from the rain all of the vegetation and the things that you benefit from. بَلْ هُمْ قَوْمٌ يَعْدِلُونَ. But they are people who equate Allah with these things that they worship, these other things. And then in the next ayah, Amman. Again, all of these verses begin with like that, Amman. And the one who Ja'al al-arda qararan, who made the earth a place, a stable place. وَجَعَلَ خِلَالَهَا أَنْهَارًا, and made rivers to run through it. وَجَعَلَ لَهَا رَوَاسِيَ, and made mountains upon it. وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ حَاجِزًا, and made a barrier between the two seas. This one who did all of this, the one who did all of this, compare that to the things that you worship beside him. So, أَإِلَهُ مَعَ اللَّهِ, the same question again. أَإِلَهُ مَعَ اللَّهِ. Is there any other God, anyone worthy of worship but Allah? Or with Allah, ma'allah, with Allah, is there any other God along with Allah? Bal aktharuhum la ya'lamun, but most of them do not know. So actually we have the translation here, but let's go on to the next three verses, 62, 63, and 64 in Surah An-Naml. Amman yujibul muttarra idha da'ah. Who is the one who responds to the person who is in distress? Somebody who is in distress and he calls upon God. Who is the one who responds to him? Not your, meaning to say, not your idols, not the things that you worship beside Allah. It is Allah alone. وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ, and removes the harm, the distress, the difficulty. وَيَجْعَلْكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ وَيَجْعَلُكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ. And He has made you like the inheritors of the earth, the ones who are in charge of the earth. أَإِلَهُمْ مَعَ اللَّهِ. Again, the same question. Is there any being that should be worshipped along with Allah? قَلِيلًا مَا تَذَكَّرُونَ. Very little do you reflect, do you think and ponder and so on. أَمَّنْ يَهْدِيكُمْ فِي ظُلُمَاتِ الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. And who is it that guides you in the darknesses of the sea and the land? وَمَنْ يُرْسِلُ الرِّيَاحَ بُشْرًا بَيْنَ يَدَيْ رَحْمَتِهِ. And who is it that sends the winds, as good tidings to those who it meets, right? The wind. أَإِلَهُ مَعَ اللَّهِ. Is there any other God beside Allah? تَعَالَى اللَّهُ عَمَّا يُشْرِكُونَ. Exalted is Allah above all that they ascribe as partners to Him. أَمَّنْ يَبْدَأُ الْخَلْقَ ثُمَّ يُعِيدُ. Or who is it that begins creation and then recreates and does it again, right? Who is it that begins creation and does creation again? وَمَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. And who gives you provisions, food and so on from the sky and from the earth? أَإِلَهٌ مَعَ اللَّهِ. Is there any other God with Allah? قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ إِن كُنتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. Say, produce your proof if you are truthful. If you think that there's some other being beside Allah who does all of these things, produce your proof. Right? So these are very strong arguments against polytheism, against all of the other things that people worship beside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that was a translation there. And so I'll stop here. But if you have any questions, we can take those questions and then conclude, inshallah. Now,
Um, we were going back to the mentioning about the idols, worship, people worshiping idols. Some non-Muslims might try to bring up the argument about we pray towards the Kaaba, and then people might be saying like, oh, we worship. They say, oh, the black rocks or something like that. So how would you, I guess, deconstruct the argument?
yes, it's quite easy to refute that. I know a lot of people raise it. And people just just out of their hostility towards Islam and Muslims, they know that this question has no merit in it whatsoever, right? They still raise it because of their hostility towards Islam and Muslims. Almost everybody knows that Muslims do not worship the Kaaba, do not worship the black stone, right? That is something that's very clear. And I've seen this answer. There's a Jew who has online videos, right? Almost every week you see a video from him, right? And in many of the videos, he is teaching classes with non-Jews, right? Sometimes with Christians and so on. He was in Indonesia for a while. Right now, he may be in Israel or so, right? But he seems to have a very good understanding of Islam. And this question was raised to him also, this Jewish person. And immediately he says that Muslims are one of the strictest set of monotheists. There's, the monotheism that is there in Islam, you cannot compare any other type of monotheism that is there with that, right? They're very, very strict monotheists. They do not worship the Kaaba. They do not worship the black stone. This is something that is said by a rabbi, and is there. It is there online. So those of them who have, not just Jews I'm talking about, but generally people who know any little thing about Islam, we know that the most emphatic teaching in Islam is Tawheed. So most people will raise that kind of question only because of their enmity, just because they want to antagonize Muslims and so on. Not all Muslims can respond, may not have the answer readily, but this is an answer you can. We uphold Tawheed, and worshipping the Kaaba is not Tawheed. It would not be Tawheed, right? It would be shirk. We condemn shirk, and we uphold Tawheed, the monotheism in the strictest sense. So that's the answer. Any other questions? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك